The cargo bay of the derelict Zephyrian transport ship floated in the empty void between star systems, its emergency beacon blinking weakly into the darkness. Captain Sarah Chen guided her salvage vessel closer, her crew scanning the abandoned craft for anything valuable. What they found instead would change everything they thought they knew about galactic civilization. "Captain, I'm reading life signs," reported Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. "Weak, but definitely there." Sarah frowned. Zephyrian ships had been missing for months, their entire trade federation mysteriously withdrawing from all inhabited sectors. The galactic community had written them off as another species that simply chose isolation over cooperation. Now finding one of their vessels drifting powerless raised uncomfortable questions. "Prepare for boarding. Full environmental suits," Sarah ordered. "We don't know what happened here." The airlock cycled with a hiss, and the boarding party stepped into the Zephyrian ship. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the corridors, and the air recycling system wheezed with mechanical distress. Dr. Martinez, the ship's medical officer, checked his readings constantly as they moved deeper into the vessel. "This way," Torres whispered, following her scanner toward the life signs. "Whatever it is, it's in the lower cargo hold." They descended through maintenance shafts and emergency passages, the ship's layout unfamiliar but functional. When they reached the cargo bay, Sarah had to fight back a wave of nausea. The space had been converted into some kind of makeshift medical facility, but everything was wrong. Dozens of containment units lined the walls, each one housing a different alien species. Most were dark, their occupants long dead. But in the center of the room, a single unit hummed with power, its transparent aluminum walls fogged with condensation. "My God," Dr. Martinez breathed, approaching the active container. "What were they doing here?" Inside the unit lay a creature unlike anything in the galactic database. It resembled a large feline, roughly the size of an Earth tiger, but its fur was a deep blue-black that seemed to absorb light. Its body was covered in bioluminescent patterns that pulsed weakly with each labored breath. Multiple injuries were visible through the sparse medical monitoring equipment attached to its form. "Captain," Torres called from a nearby terminal she had managed to activate. "I'm pulling up the ship's logs. This is a Zephyrian medical research vessel." Sarah joined her at the console, reading the translated text as it scrolled past. What she discovered made her stomach turn. The Zephyrians had been conducting experiments on captured sentient species, studying their biological responses to various diseases and treatments. The creatures in the containers weren't test subjects. They were prisoners. "The species in the active container is called a Kythera," Torres continued reading, "native to the Andromeda Spiral. Says here they're classified as expendable test subjects for xenobiological research." Dr. Martinez was already running his medical scanner over the container. "Captain, this creature is dying. Multiple organ failures, severe malnutrition, and what looks like deliberate infection with several pathogens. Whatever the Zephyrians were doing, they were torturing it." Sarah stared at the magnificent creature, watching as its bioluminescent patterns flickered like a dying star. In her 20 years of space exploration, she had seen the darker sides of galactic civilization, but this was beyond anything she could have imagined. The major galactic powers all claimed to follow strict ethical guidelines regarding sentient species, yet here was evidence of systematic torture and experimentation. "Can we help it?" she asked quietly. Dr. Martinez was already connecting his portable medical unit to the container's systems. "I don't know. Its physiology is completely alien to anything in our medical database, but Captain, we have to try. This is a sentient being." "Do it," Sarah decided without hesitation. "Whatever it takes." The next few hours were a frantic race against time. Dr. Martinez worked to stabilize the Cathara's vital signs, while Torres downloaded every piece of data she could find from the ship's computers. The story that emerged was even more horrifying than they had initially believed. The Zephyrian Biological Research Consortium had been capturing sentient species from across the galaxy for over 50 years, conducting experiments that would have been considered war crimes by any civilized standard. The Cathara had been held for 3 years, subjected to dozens of different diseases and experimental treatments. Its natural healing abilities had made it a particularly valuable test subject. "Captain, look at this," Torres said, highlighting a section of the research notes. "The Cathara's species has incredible regenerative capabilities. They can recover from almost any injury given proper care. But the Zephyrians were deliberately preventing its healing to study the progression of various diseases." Sarah felt a cold rage building in her chest. "What about the other species? The ones in the dead containers?" "Most were terminated when their usefulness ended," Torres replied grimly. "The Cathara is the only survivor because its healing factor kept it alive longer than expected." Dr. Martinez looked up from his work. "I've managed to stabilize its condition temporarily, but it needs proper medical care. Our shipboard facilities aren't equipped for this kind of xenobiology. We need to get it back to Earth." "That's a 6-week journey at best," Sarah pointed out. "Will it survive that long?" "I don't know," Martinez admitted. "But it's the only chance we've got. Earth's medical facilities are the most advanced in human space, and our doctors specialize in xenobiological cases." Sarah made her decision. "Torres, download everything from this ship's database. Every piece of research, every log entry, every communication. The galaxy needs to know what the Zephyrians were doing." "Already on it, Captain," Torres replied, her fingers flying over the alien interface. "But some of this data is encrypted with quantum locks. It might take our cryptography teams months to break it." "Then we give them months," Sarah said firmly. "Martinez, prepare the Cathara for transport. I don't care what it takes, we're bringing it home." The transfer process took several hours. The Cathara's container was too large for their ship's medical bay, so they had to modify the cargo hold to accommodate it. Dr. Martinez worked constantly to monitor its condition, adjusting the life support systems to match its alien physiology as closely as possible. As they prepared to leave the Zephyrian vessel, Sarah took one last look around the makeshift laboratory. The empty containers stood like tombstones, silent witnesses to unspeakable cruelty. She made a promise to herself and to the creatures who had died here that their sacrifice would not be in vain. "Captain," Torres reported from the bridge, "I finished downloading the data. We should go before any Zephyrian patrol ships show up." Sarah nodded and sealed the airlock behind them. As their ship pulled away from the derelict vessel, she activated the emergency beacon they had placed aboard. Other ships would find it eventually, and the evidence it contained would ensure that the Zephyrian Biological Research Consortium faced justice for their crimes. The journey back to Earth began under a cloud of uncertainty. The Cathara's condition remained critical, and Dr. Martinez struggled with medical challenges unlike anything he had encountered before. Its alien biochemistry resisted many of their standard treatments, and its psychological trauma was evident even while it remained unconscious. "Captain," Martinez reported during the second day of their journey, "I'm detecting some unusual neural activity. The Cathara appears to be telepathic, at least to some degree. I'm picking up emotional resonance from its brain patterns." Sarah visited the improvised medical bay where the creature lay surrounded by human medical equipment. Up close, she could see the intricate patterns of its bioluminescent markings, which seemed to respond to her presence with subtle shifts in color and intensity. "Can it understand us?" she asked. "I think so," Martinez replied. "The patterns change when we talk near it. I believe it's aware of our attempts to help, even if it can't respond directly." Sarah leaned closer to the container, speaking softly. We're going to help you. I know you've suffered terribly, but you're safe now. We're taking you somewhere where people will care for you properly." The bioluminescent patterns shifted to a warmer blue, and for a moment, Sarah could have sworn she felt a sense of gratitude emanating from the creature. It was the first sign of hope they had seen since beginning their rescue mission. As the days passed, the Cathara's condition slowly stabilized under Dr. Martinez's care. Earth's xenobiological medical database, transmitted ahead of their arrival, provided crucial information about similar species and potential treatment protocols. The creature began to show signs of awareness, its eyes opening for brief periods and tracking movement around its container. Sarah spent hours each day sitting beside the medical bay, talking to the Cathara and watching its responses. She told it about Earth, about humanity's commitment to helping other species, and about the justice that would come for those who had tortured it. Each time, the creature's patterns shifted in what seemed like understanding and appreciation. On the 15th day of their journey, the Cathara attempted to communicate directly. Dr. Martinez called Sarah to the medical bay urgently, his face filled with excitement and concern. "Captain, you need to see this," he said, pointing to his neural monitoring equipment. "The Cathara is generating focused telepathic signals. I think it's trying to speak to us." Sarah approached the container and felt a gentle presence touch her mind. Images flooded her consciousness, not words, but concepts and emotions. She saw the Cathara's homeworld, a beautiful planet with crystal cities and flowing energy networks. She felt its love for its family, its terror during capture, and its gradual loss of hope during years of torment. But now, she felt something else, a growing trust in humanity and gratitude for their rescue. The Cathara had somehow learned about human nature during its time aboard their ship, reading the emotional resonance of the crew members around it. It understood that these beings were different from its captors, that they valued life and compassion above knowledge and power. When the mental connection faded, Sarah found tears streaming down her face. She had experienced firsthand the depth of suffering inflicted by the Zephyrian experiments, but also the incredible resilience and nobility of the creature they had saved. "We're going to get you home," she whispered to the Cathara. "But first, we're going to make sure you're completely healed. Earth's doctors are the best in the galaxy when it comes to healing trauma, both physical and psychological." The creature's patterns shifted to a deep, warm gold, an expression of hope that Dr. Martinez had not seen since they first found it. For the first time since beginning their rescue mission, Sarah began to believe that they might not only save the Cathara's life, but help restore its spirit as well. As Earth grew larger in their viewports, the real work of healing was about to begin. The galaxy's most advanced medical facilities and most compassionate doctors were preparing to receive a patient unlike any they had ever treated. It would be a test of everything humanity had learned about xenobiology, psychology, and the art of healing. But more than that, it would be proof that sometimes, in a galaxy filled with indifference and cruelty, there were still those who would risk everything to save a single suffering soul. The Cathara's rescue was just the beginning of a story that would reshape how the galaxy viewed both humanity and the sacred nature of sentient life. The central medical complex on Earth buzzed with unprecedented activity as Captain Chen's ship approached the orbital docking station. Dr. Elena Vasquez, head of the Xenobiological Medical Division, had assembled the most talented team of doctors, psychologists, and xenobiologists available. What they were about to attempt had never been done before: the complete rehabilitation of a severely traumatized alien species with unknown physiological and psychological needs. "All teams to positions," Dr. Vasquez announced over the intercom. "Patient transfer begins in 20 minutes. The medical bay had been completely redesigned in the 3 weeks since receiving Captain Chen's initial report. Environmental controls could simulate dozens of different atmospheric conditions, while advanced medical equipment from across human space had been installed to handle any conceivable alien physiology. Most importantly, a team of human telepaths and empaths had been brought in to attempt communication and psychological support. Dr. James Fletcher, the complex's leading expert in alien psychology, reviewed the data one final time. "The trauma patterns are unlike anything we've encountered," he told his team. 3 years of systematic torture designed to break the subject's will while keeping it alive. "We're not just dealing with physical injuries here. We're looking at the complete destruction of trust in any form of sentient contact." The transfer itself took place under strict quarantine protocols. The Cathara's container was moved directly into the specialized medical suite, where teams of doctors immediately began comprehensive scans. What they found was both heartbreaking and remarkable. "The regenerative capabilities are extraordinary," reported Dr. Sarah Kim, the lead xenobiologist. "Its cellular structure is designed for rapid healing, but years of deliberate infection and injury have created scar tissue that's blocking the natural processes. It's like the body is trying to heal, but the trauma is too extensive." Dr. Vasquez studied the scans with growing amazement. "Look at the neural pathways. This species doesn't just have telepathic abilities, they have a distributed consciousness that extends into their bioluminescent organs. The Zephyrians weren't just torturing its body, they were attacking its very sense of self." The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Martinez, who had cared for the Cathara during the journey to Earth, insisted on continuing his involvement despite being far from the most qualified xenobiologist on the team. When the creature's vital signs began fluctuating dangerously during the initial examination, he approached its container and began speaking softly, just as he had done aboard Captain Chen's ship. The response was immediate. The Cathara's bioluminescent patterns shifted from distressed red to cautious blue, and its vital signs stabilized. The creature had formed a bond with the human who had first shown it kindness, and that connection was now crucial to its psychological stability. "Fascinating," Dr. Fletcher observed, watching the neural readouts. "It's not just recognizing Dr. Martinez, it's actually drawing comfort from his presence. The trust relationship formed during extreme trauma is acting as an anchor point for its recovery." Over the following days, the medical team developed an innovative approach to treatment. Instead of the traditional model of doctor-patient interaction, they created what Dr. Vasquez called a healing community. Dr. Martinez remained the primary caregiver, but other team members were gradually introduced, allowing the Cathara to slowly expand its circle of trust. The first major medical procedure took place on the 5th day. The Cathara's left forelimb had been deliberately infected with a tissue-eating pathogen that had resisted all standard treatments. Human medical technology, however, included nanobotic healers that could work at the cellular level to restore damaged tissue. "We're going to help you," Dr. Martinez explained to the creature as the medical team prepared. "This might be uncomfortable, but it will allow your body to heal properly." The Cathara's patterns shifted to indicate understanding, and for the first time since its rescue, it actively participated in its own treatment. Using its telepathic abilities, it guided the human doctors to the areas of greatest pain and showed them how its healing processes were meant to function. Dr. Kim was astounded by what she learned. "The bioluminescent organs aren't just decorative," she reported to the team. "They're actually part of its immune and healing system. The patterns communicate cellular needs throughout the body, coordinating repairs at a level we've never seen before." The nanobotic treatment was a complete success. Within hours, healthy tissue began regenerating where the infection had been destroying cells for months. The Cathara's patterns shifted to bright gold as it experienced freedom from pain for the first time in years. But the psychological healing proved more challenging than the physical recovery. Dr. Fletcher worked with the telepathic team to understand the depth of the creature's trauma. What they discovered changed their entire approach to alien psychology. The Cathara doesn't experience consciousness the same way we do, Dr. Fletcher explained to the assembled medical team. Its sense of self is distributed across multiple neural centers, including the bioluminescent organs. The Zephyrians weren't just hurting its body, they were fragmenting its very identity. The breakthrough in psychological treatment came when Dr. Rachel Wong, one of the human telepaths, made direct contact with the Cathara's consciousness. Instead of trying to impose human concepts of healing, she allowed the creature to show her its own cultural understanding of recovery and wholeness. "It's beautiful," Dr. Wong reported after the session, tears streaming down her face. Their entire species is connected through bioluminescent communication networks. Healing isn't just individual, it's communal. The Cathara has been isolated not just from its family, but from its entire sense of being connected to others. This revelation led to the development of an entirely new therapeutic approach. The human team began working together to simulate the communal healing environment that the Cathara would have experienced on its homeworld. Using advanced holographic technology and synchronized light displays, they created a space where the creature could feel connected to a healing community. The results were remarkable. The Cathara's bioluminescent patterns began displaying complex sequences that Dr. Kim identified as healing songs, patterns of light that stimulated regeneration and emotional recovery. The creature was not just healing, it was beginning to remember what it felt like to be whole. As weeks passed, the Cathara's physical condition improved dramatically. The nanobotic treatments had eliminated all traces of the experimental infections, and its natural healing abilities were functioning better than ever. But more importantly, its psychological recovery was progressing beyond all expectations. "It's learning to trust again," Dr. Fletcher observed during a team meeting. "Not just individual humans, but the concept that intelligent beings can choose kindness over cruelty." The Cathara's growing trust manifested in its willingness to share information about its species and homeworld. Through telepathic sessions with Dr. Wong, it provided detailed information about Cathara culture, technology, and philosophy. What the humans learned challenged many assumptions about galactic civilization. "They're incredible," Dr. Wong reported after a particularly intensive communication session. "The Cathara homeworld is organized around principles of healing and regeneration. Their technology is biological. Their cities grow rather than being built, and their entire society is based on helping things flourish rather than exploiting them." This information proved crucial when Captain Chen returned to Earth with new developments in the investigation of Zephyrian activities. The quantum encrypted data from the research vessel had finally been decoded, revealing a galaxy-wide conspiracy of exploitation and experimentation. "It's bigger than we thought," Captain Chen reported to the medical team and Earth Central Command. The Zephyrians weren't working alone. They had contracts with dozens of major galactic powers to provide experimental subjects and biological data. The Cathara homeworld wasn't just attacked, it was systematically harvested. The revelation that the Cathara's entire civilization had been destroyed for research purposes sent shockwaves through the medical team. Their patient wasn't just a torture survivor, it was potentially one of the last members of its species. Dr. Vasquez made a decision that would define the rest of the Cathara's recovery. "We're not just healing a patient," she announced to her team. "We're preserving a civilization. Every piece of knowledge, every cultural memory, every aspect of what it means to be Cathara needs to be documented and preserved." The Cathara responded to this news with surprising strength. When Dr. Wong explained that the humans wanted to help preserve its culture and possibly locate other survivors, the creature's patterns blazed with determination. It had found a purpose beyond mere survival. Working with the human team, the Cathara began the monumental task of preserving everything it could remember about its people. Holographic recordings captured the complex bioluminescent languages, while detailed biological scans preserved information about Cathara physiology and healing abilities. Most importantly, the creature shared the philosophical foundations of its species, the deep commitment to healing and growth that had made them a target for exploitation. The Cathara culture viewed every form of life as sacred, with special responsibility to help suffering beings recover and flourish. They would have done the same for us, the Cathara communicated to Dr. Wong during one session. If humans had been the ones captured and tortured, the Cathara would have risked everything to rescue and heal them. It is what intelligent beings owe to each other. This communication marked a turning point in the creature's recovery. It was no longer focused solely on its own healing, but was beginning to think about how it could contribute to preventing such suffering in the future. The victim was becoming an advocate for justice and compassion. Dr. Fletcher was amazed by the psychological transformation. Most trauma survivors take years to move beyond their own pain, to consider helping others. The Cathara has made that transition in months. It's either a testament to its species' resilience or to the effectiveness of our healing approach. As the Cathara's physical recovery neared completion, the medical team faced a new challenge. Their patient was healthy in body and increasingly strong in spirit, but it was still alone, possibly the last of its kind in a galaxy that had shown it only cruelty before encountering humanity. The solution came from an unexpected source. Captain Chen's investigation had identified the locations of several other Zephyrian research facilities, and preliminary reconnaissance suggested that there might be more survivors. But reaching them would require a massive operation involving multiple human ships and the risk of open conflict with the powers that had supported the research programs. "It's worth the risk," the Cathara communicated when presented with the possibility of rescue missions, "not just for my people, but for all the species being held and tortured. Humans have shown that healing is possible, that kindness can triumph over cruelty. This knowledge must spread throughout the galaxy." The medical team realized that their patient had become something more than a survivor. The Cathara was now a symbol of hope and resilience, living proof that even the most severe trauma could be healed with proper care and compassion. Its recovery had become a beacon for all species who had suffered under galactic indifference. As preparations began for the rescue missions, Dr. Vasquez reflected on what they had accomplished. "We set out to heal one broken creature," she told her team. "Instead, we've learned that healing is infectious. The Cathara's recovery has changed all of us, made us better doctors and better beings." The Cathara's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with warm gold as it listened to the plans for expanding rescue operations. It had found its purpose in the aftermath of unimaginable suffering, to serve as living proof that compassion could triumph over cruelty, and that true healing was always possible when beings chose to care for each other. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity could accomplish when driven by the simple conviction that every suffering creature deserved a chance at healing and hope. The rescue fleet that departed Earth 6 months later was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 50 ships strong, it combined human medical vessels with military escorts and diplomatic craft carrying representatives from every major civilization. At its heart flew the flagship Aurora, where the recovered Cathara served as both guide and symbol of hope for the massive operation ahead. Fleet Admiral Chen, promoted after her discovery of the Zephyrian atrocities, stood on the Aurora's bridge watching the diverse collection of alien vessels that had joined their cause. The Andromedans had contributed their fastest ships, the Centaurians provided advanced scanning technology, and even the normally isolationist vegan empire had sent medical supplies and personnel. "Never thought I'd see the day," remarked Commander Torres, now Chen's first officer. "Half the galaxy working together because one human crew decided that alien suffering mattered." The Cathara, now fully recovered and serving as the fleet's cultural liaison, approached the command area. Its bioluminescent patterns had grown brighter and more complex during its healing, and it now wore a specially designed environmental suit that allowed it to interact directly with the various species aboard the ship. "Admiral," the Cathara communicated through the universal translators, while its patterns reinforced the emotional content of its words. "I'm receiving telepathic echoes from the Rigel system. There are survivors there, but their condition is deteriorating rapidly." Admiral Chen nodded grimly. The Rigel facility was their first target, a massive research station hidden in the asteroid belt of an uninhabited system. Intelligence reports suggested it held over 200 beings from 40 different species, all subjects in ongoing experimental programs. "How long do we have?" Chen asked. The Cathara's patterns shifted to urgent orange. "Days, perhaps hours for some. The Zephyrians are accelerating their experiments now that they know they've been discovered. They're destroying evidence, including the subjects." Dr. Vasquez, now leading the fleet's medical division, joined the conversation. "Our ships are ready. We've got portable medical facilities that can handle any alien physiology and psychological support teams trained in trauma recovery for dozens of species. Whatever we find there, we can help." The approach to Rigel Station was tense. The facility was defended by automated systems and a small Zephyrian security force. But as the human fleet approached, something unexpected happened. The station's defensive systems powered down, and a communication channel opened. "Human fleet, this is Dr. Kessitar, Zephyrian Research Supervisor," came the transmission. "I am requesting immediate medical assistance for facility subjects. Our research has gone too far." Admiral Chen exchanged glances with her staff. This was not what they had expected. "Dr. Kessitar, this is Admiral Chen of the Human Rescue Fleet. Are you surrendering the facility?" "Yes," came the reply, heavy with what the translators identified as shame. "I have seen the reports of your treatment of the Cathara survivor. I have seen what real healing looks like, and I can no longer participate in this barbarism." The Cathara's patterns blazed with complex emotions as it listened to the exchange. Through its telepathic abilities, it could sense the genuine remorse from the Zephyrian doctor, as well as the desperate suffering of the beings held within the station. "There is truth in his words," the Cathara communicated to the bridge crew. "He feels genuine horror at what has been done. But, Admiral, the suffering inside that station is beyond description. We must act immediately." The boarding operation that followed was the largest medical rescue in galactic history. Human medical teams, supported by alien specialists and guided by the Cathara's telepathic abilities, spread throughout the massive research facility. What they found challenged every team member's emotional and professional capabilities. The station held beings in various stages of experimental infection, surgical modification, and psychological breakdown. Some species had been subjected to genetic manipulation, others to behavioral conditioning programs designed to break their will completely. The diversity of suffering was staggering, but so was the preparation of the rescue teams. Dr. Martinez, now heading one of the specialized trauma units, worked alongside Dr. Kessitar to understand the facility's research records. The Zephyrian doctor had maintained detailed files on every subject, including their original cultures, physiological needs, and the specific traumas they had endured. "This one is from the Tau system," Dr. Kessitar explained, indicating a crystalline being whose structure had been deliberately fractured and reformed dozens of times. "Its people communicate through harmonic resonance. We've been disrupting those frequencies for 2 years. Dr. Martinez felt his stomach turn, but he kept his professional composure. "What does it need to heal?" "Perfect acoustic harmony," the Zephyrian replied quietly. "Its body will resonate itself back to health if given the right sound environment. I have the frequency data." Across the station, similar scenes played out as human medical teams worked with repentant Zephyrian researchers to understand and treat each species' specific needs. The Kithara moved between treatment areas, providing telepathic comfort to beings who had not felt kindness in years. The most challenging case was discovered in the station's maximum security section. A young being that appeared to be part plant and part animal had been the subject of experiments designed to separate its dual nature. The psychological trauma was so severe that it had retreated completely into itself, becoming unresponsive to any external stimulus. "This is Sprout," Dr. Kessatar explained to Dr. Vasquez as they stood outside the containment unit. "Its species, the Verdanians, exist as a perfect fusion of plant and animal consciousness. We've been trying to isolate the components to understand how such fusion is possible." Dr. Vasquez studied the creature with growing horror and fascination. Sprout was beautiful despite its obvious suffering. Its skin was a pale green that shifted to silver along natural patterns, and delicate flower-like structures grew from its head and shoulders. But the flowers were wilted, the skin was gray with illness, and most disturbing of all, the being showed no response to any stimulus. "It's not just traumatized," Dr. Vasquez realized. "The experiments have actually damaged its dual consciousness. It doesn't know how to be itself anymore." The Kithara approached Sprout's container, its patterns shifting to deep, calming blues and greens. For the first time since their arrival, Sprout showed a response. The wilted flowers on its head shifted slightly toward the light from the Kithara's bioluminescence. "I can feel it," the Kithara communicated. "Its consciousness is fragmented, but not destroyed. It needs to remember how plant and animal can exist in harmony, but I don't know how to teach it that." The solution came from an unexpected collaboration. Dr. Chen's botanist daughter, Dr. Lisa Chen, had joined the rescue fleet as part of the ecological support team. When she learned about Sprout's condition, she requested permission to attempt an experimental treatment. "On Earth, we've learned that some of our most successful environmental restorations happen when we let damaged ecosystems teach us how they want to heal," she explained to the medical team. "Instead of trying to fix Sprout, what if we create an environment where it can remember how to fix itself?" Working with the station's ecological systems, Dr. Chen created a miniature biosphere around Sprout's treatment area. She combined earth plants that showed remarkable resilience with samples of flora that the Zephyrians had collected from Sprout's homeworld. The result was a small garden that seemed to pulse with life and growth. When Sprout was moved into this environment, the change was gradual but remarkable. Over several days, its skin began to take on healthier colors, and the flower structures on its body started to bloom. More importantly, it began to respond to the rhythm of growth and renewal around it. The Kithara spent hours in the garden with Sprout. Its bioluminescent patterns synchronized with the natural cycles of the plants. Through telepathic contact, it helped the young Verdanian remember what it felt like to exist as a unified being rather than as separated components. "It's working," Dr. Vasquez reported, as Sprout began to move independently for the first time in months. "The dual consciousness is reintegrating. It's remembering how to be itself." The success with Sprout became a model for treating many of the other subjects. Rather than imposing human concepts of healing, the rescue teams learned to create environments where each species could rediscover its own natural processes of recovery and growth. Dr. Kessatar proved invaluable in this process. His years of research, while conducted for horrible purposes, had given him deep knowledge of dozens of alien physiologies and psychological patterns. Working with human medical ethics committees, he helped design recovery programs that respected each species' natural healing traditions. "I thought knowledge was the highest goal," he explained to Dr. Vasquez during one of their planning sessions. But you humans have shown me that wisdom is knowing how to use knowledge with compassion. My research was detailed and accurate, but it was not wise. The recovery of the Rigel Station subjects took 3 months, but the results exceeded all expectations. Not only did every subject survive, but most were able to make complete recoveries using the collaborative treatment approaches developed by the human-led medical teams. The transformation was so remarkable that word of the rescue spread throughout the galaxy faster than official communication channels. Planets that had lost citizens to Zephyrian research programs began sending delegations to Earth, requesting assistance in developing their own trauma recovery programs. More importantly, the success at Rigel revealed the locations of other research facilities. Some had been abandoned as the conspiracy collapsed, but others still held subjects who could be saved. The rescue fleet grew as they moved from system to system, picking up ships and volunteers from grateful civilizations. The final rescue took place at the Zephyrian home system itself, where a massive research complex held over 1,000 subjects from across the galaxy. But when the rescue fleet arrived, they found the facility had been transformed into a voluntary rehabilitation center, with Zephyrian doctors working alongside human medical teams to heal the beings they had once tortured. Admiral Chen stood in the main medical bay of the converted facility, watching as the Kithara worked with Sprout and dozens of other recovered beings to create a new kind of healing community. The bioluminescent patterns of the Kithara synchronized with Sprout's photosynthetic rhythms, while other species contributed their own unique abilities to support the recovery of their fellow survivors. "We've started something bigger than we realized," Dr. Vasquez said, joining Chen at the observation deck. "This isn't just about rescuing torture victims anymore. We're creating a new model for how civilizations can help each other heal from trauma." The Kithara approached them, its patterns now displaying the complex gold and blue sequences that its people had once used to celebrate successful healing rituals. Through telepathic contact, it shared with the humans a vision of what the galaxy could become, a community of species united not by trade or territory, but by their commitment to helping each other flourish. "The suffering is ending," the Kithara communicated, "but the healing is just beginning." 6 months later, the Galactic Healing Initiative had become a permanent institution, with medical stations throughout known space dedicated to trauma recovery and species rehabilitation. The Kithara served as its first director, working alongside human doctors and converted Zephyrian researchers to develop new approaches to interspecies medicine and psychology. Sprout had made a complete recovery and chose to remain with the program, using its unique dual nature to help other beings who had suffered identity trauma. Dr. Kessatar had founded a new school of ethical xenobiology, teaching future researchers to study alien life with respect and compassion. But perhaps the most important change was in how galactic civilization viewed the concept of sentient rights. The rescue operations had demonstrated that every intelligent being deserved not just freedom from torture, but active support for healing and growth. Suffering was no longer seen as inevitable. It was understood as something that could and should be addressed through collective compassion and advanced medical care. Admiral Chen, now retired from active service, visited the Kithara one last time before returning to Earth. The creature had established a small healing garden aboard the main medical station, where beings from dozens of species came to learn about recovery and resilience. "Any regrets?" Chen asked, watching as the Kithara's patterns danced with the photosynthetic rhythms of the surrounding plants. "Only that it took so long," the Kithara replied. "But perhaps that is the nature of healing. It happens when it is ready to happen, not when we wish it would." As Chen's ship departed for Earth, she reflected on the journey that had begun with a simple salvage operation and ended with the transformation of galactic civilization. Humanity had gained a reputation not as the most advanced species or the most powerful, but as the people who would cross the galaxy to heal a single suffering soul. The Cathara's story had become legend, but more than that, it had become proof that compassion was not a weakness, but the foundation of true strength. In a universe that had often seemed cold and indifferent, beings across the galaxy now knew that somewhere, someone was willing to risk everything to ensure that suffering need not be endured alone. The galaxy's abandoned feline had found not just healing, but a purpose that would echo through the stars for generations to come. And in caring for one broken soul, humanity had discovered its greatest contribution to galactic civilization, the unwavering belief that every sentient being deserved the chance to heal, to grow, and to flourish in the light of compassionate care.